you very much. Just checking the microphone's working okay, you can hear me? Excellent, thank you. So, I'm from the UK, and in the UK, when we attend a US event as a group, UK people, they often say to us, chant things like, awesome! But the Americans do, but the UK people don't. We all sit silent, which I noticed today, people didn't want to shout awesome, but so I kind of sympathize with that. So we're going to be talking about the roadmap to transforming Malaysia to become an emerging digital infrastructure hub. But that's not only a mouthful to say, but it's also a mouthful to comprehend. Because actually what is a digital infrastructure hub? So we discussed this before over WhatsApp chat, and before we get into the real substance of the conversation, I'm going to invite each of the panelists to give a very, very brief description of what digital infrastructure means to them. So we'll go across. It means the hardest for James. It's always hard to be the last when everyone's doing the same one. So, MENG, if you want to show it.
All right. I'll make mine quick. Basically, it's for me, it's three major ingredients. Connectivity, both domestic and international. And of course, the data centers that basically contain the data. So you have the elements for data in motion, and you have the elements of data at rest. That's it, digital infrastructure.
Thank you.
All right, Assalamualaikum. Is it still morning? Okay, good morning. For my definition, digital infra is very short. The backbone is the backbone.
Yeah.
That's it.
Agree.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Assalamualaikum, good morning all. For TM, if you look at digital infrastructure refers to our assets that enable us to deliver digital services to our customers. And that would mean, as what MENG said just now, and Ms. RUHAIZAN said, it could be our fibers that we have laid out throughout the country, the submarine cables that we have connecting us, and the whole wide world, and also data centers that are going to host some of these facilities enabling digital services. Yeah.
Okay, I think to me, the usual answers would be things like electricity, water, utilities, fiber optic, and 5G. But I want to add more on sustainable infrastructure, right? Again, since I'm an IoT guy, again, sensors, IoT is very important to create sustainable infrastructure. For example, IoT can be used to monitor the carbon footprint, right? That it's generated by data center, right? To make it more sustainable for the future.
Thank you, James. So it's kind of interesting because we actually did get four different answers just to that question of what is digital infrastructure. So it's obviously a very broad thing, but I think between you encapsulated it quite well. I know as moderator I'm not meant to give my opinion too much, but I'll just do one. I also feel people is part of it as well. People and skills, but that's going to be the extent of my contribution. The rest is going to be getting it from you guys. So we'll jump into some questions that are obviously tailored around the overarching theme that we've got for the conversation. The first question I'm going to jump into, I'll put to MAHATHIR and James before, if the others would like to jump in, they can. But I think at the core of what we're talking about when it comes to digital infrastructure, we're really talking about, at that core, data centers and cloud. That seems to be the buzz right now that everyone's talking about. So could you talk a little bit about the effects of hyperscale data centers and sophisticated cloud infrastructure on Malaysia's digital economy? So maybe, MAHATHIR, I'll go to you first.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Andrew. So I'm sure this is a data center and cloud infrastructure summit, and I suppose a lot of the audience here are either directly involved or indirectly involved with the data center business and cloud. So the way we are seeing it, the ability or the having the data centers in country allows us to grow a number of things. Yeah, immediately from manpower perspective. Yeah, from manpower side, we see that all the resources, the students coming out from colleges, universities, and so on, they will have the opportunity to contribute back in terms of providing, delivering the works to these players. Yeah, I think if we see now the demand for data center professionals has grown. Yeah, and an effect of that is you're going to see salaries on the rise for data center professionals, and similarly for cloud as well. I think because of a lot more adoption for cloud, a lot more people able to grow themselves in these areas. So one is from the human resource capabilities perspective. I think the other part of it, from economic sense, it is on the auxiliary or the services that stem out from the DC and cloud. Yeah, we see a lot more parties able to provide services to support the data center business. Yeah, from the mechanical providers, the electrical providers, the vendors, installers, maintenance, and so on. So those are, I would think, direct impact to the economy from the fact that data centers, hyperscalers coming to Malaysia.
Yeah, interesting. Just one very quick follow-up to this, because I imagine some people may be quite interested, but you spoke about the data center professionals that are going to have opportunities. Maybe just very briefly, like what kind of skills are you looking for, or do you think will be needed?
Yeah, if we look at DC, few angles there. One is from the mechanical side, the cooling technologies and facilities. Engineers in the mechanical area will be needed. Yeah. In the electrical side of things, you're going to have the high voltage, low voltage, the transformers, switch gears, and so on. Those are needed. From IT side, people who understands the information system, information security, yeah, IT operations, those are the areas that are going to be needed to support the expansion of DC business in Malaysia.
Yeah, thank you for that. James, your view on this?
Yeah, well, a little bit add to what Mahathir said. I think obvious having the in-country cloud, hyperscalers coming in and building the data center. First thing is you reduce latency, right? All your e-wallet apps, everything will run much faster, much more smoother, and also enhance reliability of security, right? Imagine if, let's say, a data center is somewhere in earthquake-prone countries, right? You are subjected to those kind of natural disasters. Again, thank God Malaysia don't have such adverse effect now, right? As long as we take care of Mother Earth, right, to prevent climate change. I think on the other end is obviously it's a good, it's like honey. It will attract bees, right? The bees are other type of businesses will come in, right? Like, EV, electric vehicles that needs a reliable cloud infrastructure, AI startups, maybe the next unicorn, right, can come here and take advantage of all these compute resources. And definitely job creation. As Mahathir mentioned, managing a data center is you need a team of engineers, expertise from electrical engineers, mechanical, chemical, right, physics, and so forth, right. It will be a flow over effect. So I think the next 5 to 10 years will be very interesting for this region.
Interesting, and yep, my EV is charging in the car park right now. So on that ecosystem that you were both referring to, I had a chat with someone who will know who it is, but they were also saying things that there's unexpected ecosystems like making use of the heat that data centers are producing to do things like dry coffee beans, as an example. And so I guess we really have to think wide in terms of the effect that it could have. In terms of encouraging investment into digital infrastructure, what are some of the incentives or tax reliefs that Malaysia could introduce? And I think for that, I'd like to go to the other two guests here today. So RUHAIZAN, maybe you could talk to that first, and then MENG, I'll come to you.
All right, thank you, Andrew, for the questions. Okay, when you talk about incentive, because under this digital investment initiative, we work together with MDEC. We have established what we call Digital Investment Office, or DIO. So this is actually a virtual collaborative effort between these two agencies, where MIDA is under Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry, MITI, and MDEC is under the Ministry of Digital. So under this what we call platform, DIO flagship, we have also introduced incentive. So like like each of agencies, like MIDA, we have our own set of incentive scheme. Same goes to MDEC. So like for MIDA, probably later Mr. Jiming will explain further what would be the incentive under MDEC. Under MIDA, we have introduced Digital Ecosystem Acceleration Scheme, or in short DSAC, D-E-S-A-C, DSAC. So under this DSAC, it's actually for all the digital investment company who actually undertake the activity of data center, data hosting, cloud computing, or submarine cable. So this company is eligible to be given incentive or tax break. Okay, there are two types of incentive that the government offered to all these industry players, for especially on the digital. One is on the investment tax allowance. Okay, it's actually can be given up to 100% of the capital expenditure incurred for that particular project on the digital investment. And also to offset again up to 100% of the statutory income for a period of 10 years, up to 10 years. And the other one is on the tax rate, preferential tax rate, from 10% to 15%. For also a period up to 10 years. So other than incentive, in order to facilitate this kind of investment, the government also introduced Invest Malaysia Facilitation Center, where actually we gather all the key stakeholders in MIDA, okay, to facilitate, to ensure that whatever investment that all these bring into the country can be, facilitate accordingly. So that will be on the facilitation side. Because I think as an investor, when you do any kind of business in any other countries, you need this kind of facilitation, because you know that a lot of, roadblock that you have on the ground. So I think beside incentive that the government offer, we also provide this kind of facilitation. Okay, I stop there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, so on the Malaysia digital side, once you have the Malaysia digital status, there are a few things that you will have access to. One of them is, of course, a lot of companies, when they first enter Malaysia, they haven't established basically their human resources yet. So you might need to bring in some people from wherever you come from, some expats. So we have a scheme that allows you to basically apply for visas and work permits for expats. The other thing is we also provide import duty exemption for equipment that's not available in Malaysia. So if you are starting your data center and there's critical equipment that you need in your design of your data center, which is not available in Malaysia, either there is no reseller or there's no manufacturer of such equipment, then you can import the equipment tax-free. So that's one of the actually most important incentives that we provide. Then again, as one RUHAIZAN mentioned, it's about facilitation as well. So basically my team in the digital infrastructure department, our key role is actually facilitating investors on a technical level. So if you need to meet all the different suppliers of renewable energy, or you want to talk to the power producer, you want to talk to the various agencies on regulation and guidelines and so on. So we will assist you with connecting up with all the various stakeholders. And then as the other issue is, once your project starts, there's bound to be some hiccups and speed bumps, and we basically help smoothen out the speed bumps and allow you to go to market as quickly as possible. So I think in a nutshell, that's what we can provide.
Okay. So again, very, very interesting. I think I'll follow up with particularly when it comes to that investment in the data center space in particular. I guess there's an opportunity now, because I think from what I understand, Singapore was ahead of the curve. A lot of the international data centers went there, but they don't have the space anymore. So they literally can't fit anymore in. So there's an opportunity, I guess, in the region. So based on what you were just telling us, do you have a feel for how Malaysia's incentives are stacking up against other ASEAN countries? And whether you feel that you're well positioned to take advantage of that opportunity. So.
All right. Malaysia, when we talk about Malaysia, our approach is we are targeting a quality investment into the country. So meaning that we are very selective. What we approach will be, in terms of the investment promotion, will be the ecosystem. We look at the ecosystem of that industry. So we are very selective when we want to attract the investment into the country. We are looking into the, as mentioned by our panelists earlier, on the high, pay job, that is one. We're looking at high technology, we're looking at the high value added, knowledge base, and also what we call that, the whole ecosystem. So what we do is we try to fill the gaps. Whenever we attract investor, we want all these investors to fill the gaps in that ecosystem. So that, we know that given a lot of, high competition between all our peers, in the ASEAN and also the regions. So we know by having all this, what we call that, the approach that we're using in terms of the promoting of the investment, we look at the whole ecosystem of the industry itself. As what we did for the E&E industry, we have from the back end from the front end until the back end. So the same approach that we also apply for this data center. So we wanted to make sure that whatever gap is there, we bring in all the investors to ensure that it's smoothened, from the digital infra up to the digital services.
Yeah. Ziming, do you have a view on this as well?
Yeah, actually, basically, I think in the past, it's always been about tax breaks and so on. But the thing is, I think times have changed a lot. In fact, I think OECD has been pushing for changes in tax incentives by various other countries, and we are moving towards a situation where everyone's got to pay tax somewhere, right? So it's a global tax reform kind of thing. So incentives are not going to be that important anymore. So I think what we are positioning ourselves at is that we have the infrastructure and resources, and we have room to grow, right? Malaysia has renewable energy. We have government support in terms of data center investment and in general digital infra investment. And I think that's basically what we are seeing that's attracting people in. So it's not so much that you come here and you save on your corporate tax. I think those days are pretty much gone. So it's about how can your business grow in Malaysia? How can Malaysia be your regional base to reach the rest of the region?
And James referred to this before, but I'm just interested in your view. Does I call it the natural elements of this country, so no typhoons, no earthquakes, does that make a big difference?
Actually,
within Southeast Asia?
Okay, so there's pros and cons with no earthquakes, no volcanoes, no typhoons. That also means we don't have wind energy, we don't have geothermal energy. So it's pros and cons.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you look at the Japan market, right? Japan is a really expensive market, and they have earthquakes, tsunamis, but they have one of the largest data center ecosystems in Asia Pac. And that's because people will design the data center to fit the environmental location it's in.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's that important.
Okay. Did you?
All right, Andrew, just to add also, when we talk about, incentive, of course, we cannot compare with others countries. I'm sure a lot of other countries, they have their own set of incentive, provided to all the investors. But what we actually looking at is what is our competitive advantage, like as Malaysia. One is, of course, we have very strategic locations, we are very at the center of the ASEAN. And then we also have a pool of talents, multi-language, talents that will be some of our attraction, to the investor who actually wanted to invest in the country.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to flip the question a little bit, and I'm going to go to James and MAHATHIR, because obviously you're kind of more on the commercial side. So instead of looking at it as from a competitive standpoint, what about the collaboration? Do you feel that Malaysia is well suited or situated to be almost like a conduit between providers of digital infrastructure across the region? Maybe James, if you go first, and then I'll go to MAHATHIR.
Just to clarify, you're talking about within Southeast Asia, right?
Generally speaking.
Yeah, generally. I think if anyone still remember the geography lessons, right? Geographically, Malaysia is in a very strategic position. It's almost right at the smack of Southeast Asia, right? I think a lot of investors overseas normally will give Malaysia priority to invest and a gateway to the other countries, Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, and so forth. I think mainly because of the diversity. English is widely spoken, right? I think especially with the Maidani government, there's a lot of incentives also making it easier to do business, right? We are hopefully progressing much faster, right? Hopefully catching up with Singapore in a very, very near future. I think all this will play a sense. And obviously on the other side, there's the geopolitical side. We hope, I think overall we can remain apolitical, right, in the scheme of things, right, to enable all parties to prosper in generating digital economy and so forth.
Thank you for that. And Mahathir, I guess from your side, I assume you have collaborations across the region. So your view again on just whether we're well positioned to be that conduit.
Yeah, I think definitely being right in the middle, as what the other panelists have said just now, position us in the right location, to serve the demands from both the east side of the world and the west side of the world. We are able to, and the fact that we are so-called part of the non-aligned country, enabling us to pull together from a telco perspective, as doing the carrier-to-carrier business, linking up the east and west traffics. I think that's important, and ability to be so-called the melting pot for technologies from both sides to come in and serve. And I think it's always important for us to be able to capture or to capitalize that capability or that unique advantage, that unique position that we have. So yes, collaborating with the providers from the east side and also providers from the west side of the world. I think that allows us to ensure that we can give more and bring the country to the higher level. And obviously, with all the submarine cable connectivities that we have, linking the east and the west and so on, that really helps us and deliver, putting Malaysia on the map.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think,
can
Patrick, I
add
just want
something
to
to
add,
that.
I think the other thing I want to add is, one of the largest export for Malaysia is the Indian industry, semiconductors. I think I read it's about 40%. And it also provides an important element because semiconductors are what goes into all the data centers, right?
And then,
Yeah, actually, I was going to add that actually we are growing down south in Johor. Is basically a collaboration between Malaysia and Singapore, because as Singapore has basically not able to continue the growth of the data center industry, it has basically spilled over into Johor, and this is where the special economic zone that we are now building together with Singapore will basically turn both Johor and Singapore into a holistic region that will serve the rest of the region. So I think that's one very good example of how Malaysia is actually collaborating with our neighbors.
yeah, a great example, yeah, because I can literally see it as I'm there. Believe it or not, we only have 4 minutes left on the discussion. So there's one question that I did want to ask, which I think is relevant. It moves away specifically from data center as such. So it was around, given you, obviously in KL, I guess it's easy to say that you're making that digital transformation. But as you go more rural, it gets more difficult. So can you talk to initiatives that are being undertaken to bridge that digital divide and give more widespread access to digital technologies across the regions? So maybe RUHAIZAN, I'll go to you first, and then I'll go to the others.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. I think the most prominent digital divide, what I can say is education. Because, you know, we actually wanted to have the right skill, you know, in terms of upskilling and also reskilling the talent that we have currently. Because we need to ensure that whatever the technology that we have currently is supported by all these talents. So I think that will be the, what we call the most prominent, to me, in my opinion, that would be the most prominent digital divide. Okay.
Excellent.
Yeah. I think as part of TM Global and providing, which provides the wholesale service, to the other mobile network operators, for example, and other players, we have always been advocating the infrastructure sharing, and we can achieve that firstly through the wide coverage of fiber optics throughout the nation, including rural areas, and secondly, we have also implemented, or we have set up edge facilities throughout the country. I think so far we have 7 in the regions, in the states, where that serves as a point of interconnect for various, for the 5G and the mobile operators, the backhaul and so on. And that also allows content distribution to be closer to end user. And that's how we see our contribution in terms of bridging the divide from the urban centers and towards further out in the country.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to take a slightly different point of view. Basically, it all complements, but what I'm looking at is that as more and more of these cloud platforms come and establish themselves in Malaysia, I think it will give small and medium companies easier access into the cloud. And I think the cloud is a big, leveler in terms of capability. Small companies using the cloud to deploy their platforms can compete with big companies who operate their own data centers. Right, so I think the cloud is the big, as far as the digital divide between small, medium companies and the large ones, the cloud is the big equalizer.
Yeah, I agree. James, do you have a view on this one?
Well, despite Malaysia is well connected overall, I think there are still a lot of places, especially in Sabah and Sarawak, right? I think the key thing is access to internet, right? We don't still not have 100% access yet. And then the other key thing is obviously education, right? We need to start them young. I think it's changed since the last 10 years. My kid is going to school now. He's learning about robotics, using Lego blocks, programming, a bit of AI, right? I think with the proliferation of cloud data center, the tools are there, right? There's so many like open source AI that you can play with, like Llama and stuff like that. You probably complete the whole 4-year MIT course, right, through YouTube and online, right? In fact, most of the big companies like Google, Microsoft, they don't look at your degree anymore. As long as you're a good coder, you're good in data analytics, AI, they will pay you top dollar, right? We need to, again, give more push to this younger generation. I think I read somewhere in LinkedIn, I think one of my contacts mentioned, he wish he was young now. like 20 years, you know, he wants to be a 20-year-old now. I do feel the same thing, because as I've seen right now, the youth of today have much more opportunities, much more resources, right? And hopefully we'll have a few more Elon Musk or Bill Gates in the future for youth.
Yeah, but I can agree with one thing. I also wish I was younger again, so for sure. So, okay, so we've actually reached the end of our time. I think we've really only scratched the surface of that discussion, but I guess everyone's around, and anyone that wants to go into more detail can. I know from our side, our editorial team on Disruptive Tech News has really seen, over the last particularly 18 months, enormous traction that they had not seen before in investment from foreign data center providers and infrastructure providers coming into Malaysia. So we're seeing it from a reporting angle, which I guess means that the things you're talking about are having some kind of effect. With that, I'd just like to thank everyone. Really appreciate the very interesting comments, and I think we can give them all a round of applause. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right, thank you so much.